DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anybody out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into one framework, an entire codified system. We have a book on the subject you can start with. We have an open enrollment university, and you're listening to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to avoid shiny object syndrome. I think many of you have heard of shiny object syndrome, but I'm going to give a definition of it anyway so that we all can be working from the same page in regards to this topic today. The definition is the tendency for someone to chase something new, be it a new idea, trend, or a goal, rather than to stay focused on what they're doing. The behavior is similar to a child who may be attracted to anything that's shiny and new. Or I would add in, that's the end of the definition there, close quote. I would add in maybe a dog. And if you have certain dogs who are always chasing after the new shiny thing. If they see a car, they might chase the car. They see a squirrel, they might chase a squirrel or chase a bird. They're always paying attention to something new. They don't really stay focused on one thing for a long time. Again, certain types of dog, depending on the breed and where they come from. Don't get me to try to explaining that. But this whole concept here today about shiny object syndrome and why this matters is because somebody has sent me not too long ago, maybe a month or so ago, from this recording, an Instagram post of somebody saying something that the person who messaged me said, well, this guy X, he said something similar to something that you said a while ago or something that you've been saying for a while ago. And the person was saying to me, hey, well, this guy, person X, they got more attention for saying the same thing, Dre, that you've been saying for years. And I told them, I don't know if I even said it to them, but I thought of this topic either way. We'll talk about it now. This is kind of shiny object bait that you're enticed into looking into what other people are doing or how something is working for another person that may be similar to you or maybe somehow parallel to you. And then that takes you off of the path of the thing that you were focused on to begin with. And that could entice someone, maybe myself, maybe you, to go in, all right, let me see if I could try to do what that person's doing, because obviously what they're doing is getting them some attention. Maybe they made some money off of it. Maybe they're getting some success out of it. Maybe it looks like it's fun. Maybe it looks like they're creating happiness and success for themselves. So maybe I need to go do that instead of doing the thing that I was already focused on, where I'm toiling and it's work and I'm not getting a ton of attention / money / happiness from it just yet, but I was working on it. But now that I saw somebody else getting attention a different way, hey, maybe I need to go chase that instead. This is shiny object syndrome. And shiny object syndrome is boosted, for lack of a better term, bolstered, or it is emboldened. It just gets enhanced by the fact that on our smartphones all day, we can see what everybody else is doing, which allows us to, if we look for long enough, you scroll for long enough, you will find a shiny object in the form of, okay, let me look at this person's pictures, or let me hear what this person has to say, or, oh, this person is interesting, I never heard of them before, it looks like they have some good things going on. Let me just look into everything that they've ever done and everything that they got going on and read every caption that they ever posted. And now, before you know it, you're no longer focused on your thing. You're no longer giving attention to the thing that you were doing before, the maybe not so shiny object that is your current situation, your life. And this could entice you again to completely take all your attention off of you and start putting it on everybody else. The point is, of all this, if you have this habit of chasing things that entice you when you see somebody else having it, or maybe you just see something that you didn't know existed until you see someone else having it, I want to help you stay out of the trap. So again, today's topic, as we get into point number one, the topic is how to avoid shiny object syndrome. Number one, have a plan and a strategy for your own success, a plan that you can trust, and a plan that you are committed to. Now, understand that a plan that you can trust and are committed to does not necessarily mean that your plan is perfect. It does not mean that the plan as it currently is constructed is going to take you to the absolute success that you want in life. There are many adjustments you're going to make to your plan along the way. Maybe your plan is not even good. Maybe your plan is faulty and you're going to have to make a ton of adjustments along the way because you didn't know what you didn't know. When you first started out, you were in this state of unconscious incompetence, maybe even conscious competence. You made a plan, but you know that this plan is not going to be the exact plan to get you to where you want to go, but you're all right with that. So you still trust it and you're still going to follow it. You'll make your adjustments based on what you have planned out up to this point. A plan that fulfills you, it doesn't have you looking around at everyone else at the same time, is a plan that you can trust. Again, that doesn't mean your plan is going to be the best plan. There may be other people who have plans and their stuff is clearly producing more results than yours are. But as long as you stay focused on your plan, as long as you have a plan that you're willing to stay focused on, let's put it that way. If you're willing to stay focused on your plan, then that's okay. You can see someone else, maybe they're doing something and theirs is working better, or at least it appears to be. Theirs seems to be more efficient. But as long as you trust the plan that you have and you're committed to the plan that you have, when you trust it, you should be committed. And when you're committed, you're going to trust. Then you won't be so distracted by what other people are doing. Maybe, just maybe, ideally, you won't pay any attention at all to what other people are doing. When you're all in on your own plan, on your own program, your prerogative, whatever you're doing, you will either be too consumed with your own work, so wrapped in it that other people's work doesn't distract you at all, or even if you do take a look at another person's work, it doesn't pull you off the scent of focusing on what you're doing. That's the ideal outcome, I would say, when you have a plan that you're really committed to. And again, I'm throwing in a disclaimer that being committed to a plan doesn't necessarily mean that everything you're trying has to be working. And it doesn't mean that what you're doing has to be producing the most results out of everybody, at least based on what we can see of what everyone else is showing. Because since human beings, us being social creatures, I don't think it's a long-term strategy to never pay attention to what other people are doing, even though that I have said many times, I've espoused that's a key to success, is not pay attention to what other people have going on. It doesn't mean you completely ignore all other human beings that don't acknowledge their presence. It means you can see that other people are doing stuff and hear that other people are saying things and someone else is doing this and this person accomplished that and this person has this. And you can notice it, you can acknowledge it, you can consciously recognize that these things are happening, or at least someone is telling you that they're happening, but they don't pull you off of the focus of doing what you need to do. In other words, if you have 100% of a focused pie, so to speak, to go around, at least 51% of that focused pie needs to be on what you're doing. And then you got 49% to play around with. So if you want to give 10% over here and 10% to 4 different people, 9% to another person, you can do that. But 51%, the majority stake of your focus should always be going to yourself. And if you want to take that 49% that you have to play around with and give another 30 to yourself, okay, now 80% of your focus is on you. Now you got 20% to play around with and do with whoever else or whatever else happens to be going on. It's outside of your situation and the things that you are committed to. So if you just remember that, 51% of your focus needs to always be on you. 51% of your focus should always stay on where you're going, what you're doing, what outcomes you're looking to achieve. I have an episode number 1282, where we talked about the 51-49 rule, which is not specifically about this. This 51-49 rule from episode 1282 is about, if you're trying to help another person, you should never give more than 49% of the effort, because if you're trying to help them, that means they're the ones who has the goal. They're the ones who has the outcome that they're looking to get to, which means they need to be the majority stake owner in what they're doing, which actually kind of is like the inverse of what we're talking about right here. So if you're trying to help somebody else get to their goal, you cap out your effort at 49% and they need to have at least 51% ownership. Now we're talking about you and your goals. You need to have 51% ownership, and anyone else or anything else that could possibly be pulling away at your focus doesn't get any more than 49%. And again, 51% is just the baseline. That's the floor. You can raise that. You can give 100% of your focus to you and not pay any attention at all to other people if you want to do it that way. Maybe at least for a period of time. Maybe a sustained period of time you do that so you can go create what you need to create. And then when you do finally come up for air and look at what everybody else has going on, you can appreciate other people's stuff, but you're not distracted by the shiny object syndrome of saying, I need to go do that, because you just gave 100% of your focus to doing your thing. And I promise you, if you give 100% of your focus to doing your thing, whatever your thing happens to be, even if you start out with the worst plan ever created, if you're given that focus for a sustained period of time, you will create enough success for yourself that nothing you see other people doing or having or being or talking about or claiming is going to distract you off of your thing, because you already have seen the results. You've seen and experienced the results that come when you give all your focus to yourself. The more easily someone else's shit distracts you from your shit, the less clear you are on your own path. Or the less you trust that path. Maybe you're 100% clear, you just don't trust it. But do not allow another person's work or whatever, anything that anyone else is doing, saying, or representing, or what you heard about them, if it's distracting you from your thing, that means your thing is either unclear or you don't trust it. Two issues that you can fix. And you work with me and Work on Your Game University. We'll help you with either one or both if you have both issues. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to avoid shiny object syndrome. I mean, shiny objects can be a good thing. I mean, a ring, a necklace, a nice car, those can be shiny objects, but you don't want to have the syndrome of always chasing around the next new thing because you just can't stay focused on one thing for long enough. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, how to avoid shiny object syndrome. Stay out of other people's business. I mean, this is a simple enough concept, right? Staying out of other people's business. When, I don't know how old everyone is who's listening to this, but back in the day when we were kids, we would say things like, mind your business. Maybe your parents might tell you that. If you ask the wrong question or you're looking at something you ain't supposed to be looking at, your parents might tell you, mind your business. Maybe you would say that to your friends who would say something about you or what you got going on and you're trying to shut them up, but instead of telling them to shut up, you say, mind your business. In episode number 1288, that's exactly what we talked about. Minding your business. All right, this is a literal thing. We used to say it as a figure of speech, but it is actually a literal thing. This is the skill, minding your business, the skill of focus and paying less attention to what other people are doing. Now, let me ask a couple questions on this very subject, paying less attention to what other people are doing. Is it possible that any of us could learn and glean from what other people do? Absolutely. I 100% do believe that. And question, are you learning and gleaning equally to how much you're looking? I bet that the answer is no. Let me ask that question again, then I'll break it down so you understand what I mean. We can all learn from what other people are doing. You look around at what other people are doing, I guarantee you there's some things that you'll learn. I mean, actually, let me not guarantee that. Depending on who you're looking at, all right, and depending on what you're looking for. Because you look at a person and you could learn 1,000 things from one person, but the question is, where's your attention going? What are you paying attention to in that person? Because every one of us is a complex being. There's a lot of things that anyone can learn from looking at us, or at least think that they're learning. It depends on what parts they're actually trying to pay attention to. And then when you're paying attention, then there's the focus. So for example, you could take an athlete who's a football player, and you could pay attention to how fast they run with the football, how well they catch the ball, how often they lift weights, what kind of food do they eat. You could pay attention to that part. You can also pay attention to where they come from, what neighborhood they grew up in, what school they went to, what did they major in when they were in college, do they have kids or a family, what are their plans for after their career. There's a million, what are they posted on Twitter and Instagram in the last 2 weeks. There are a lot of different things you could pay attention to in an individual person. So when you're looking at another person, is it possible you can learn some things from them? Absolutely. Now, here's the question that I'm asking you, since we all agree on that. Look at how much you're looking at other people's stuff, and then ask yourself, how much are you learning from looking at other people's stuff? And usually, we do a whole lot more looking at other people's stuff than we do actually learning anything useful for our purposes from looking at other people's stuff. So we do a lot more looking than learning. Remember the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle. 80% of your results coming from 20% of your inputs. Meaning, of all the looking around that you do at what other people have going on, 80% of the things that you learn come from about 20% of the time you spend looking, 20% of the people that you're looking at, and 20% of the things that you actually pay attention to. What happens to all of us is that we get shiny object syndrome via looking around too much at everything other than ourselves. And this usually happens when or if and because our own shit is not compelling enough to keep us focused on that, so our eyes and our minds begin to wander. And this is why you need to revisit point number 1, where I just told you, have a plan and a strategy for your own success, a plan that you can trust and be committed to. Therefore, you will not be so distracted as to stop looking at your own stuff and start looking around at everybody else's. Because when you are not really sold on yours, your subconscious mind is letting you know, all right, we're not really bought into this plan. Maybe let's look at something else, something that's a little bit more stimulating, something that looks like it might actually work, something that looks like somebody has bought into, and then you go start looking at everybody else's stuff. You start browsing through your feeds. You find something else to pay attention to because the feed, the algorithmic setup of the feed is going to give you something that it believes you're going to pay attention to. You'll eventually find something. Maybe it'll be useful and fruitful for you. Maybe it will contain some substance for you. Maybe not. As long as it gets your attention, that's all the algorithm cares about. Gets your attention. That thing has somebody bought into it. Somebody, maybe even you bought into it. And it takes you away from the pain, the emotional and the psychic pain and mental pain that comes with paying attention to something that you're not quite bought into yourself, i.e. your own plan. So the more easily you are distracted, that should tell you a lot about how compelling or not compelling your own shit is. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to avoid shiny object syndrome. Be secure enough in your own plan and success, because when you are, when people ask me, Dre, how can I avoid distraction? People always ask me, how can I avoid distraction? The thing is, you don't avoid distractions. All right, distractions only exist when focus is not present. It's like somebody saying, Dre, how can I avoid darkness? Well, you can't avoid darkness. The only time darkness occurs is when there is no light. So if you have light around all the time, then there will never be darkness. Now, of course, we got daytime and nighttime, but we got electricity these days. So you could technically be in light all day. It would be artificial light for at least part of the day, but there would absolutely be light all the same. So distraction and focus, again, only one exists when the other does not exist. All right, they don't exist at the exact same time. Actually, they kind of do exist. I mean, light, again, dark is just the absence of light. So is it right there? As soon as light goes away, dark immediately shows up. So it is kind of there, but you never see both at the same time. All right, you only see darkness when there's no light around you. And when you see light, it's impossible for there to be darkness. So you got to be secure enough in your own plan and success so that you don't worry about avoiding the distraction of looking at other people's business. You are so focused on what you're doing that other people's business never even occurs to you. And if it does, it's because you're doing it strategically. Maybe a little bit of break from what you got going on, but then just so you can get back to your own business. When you're focused on your own stuff, you don't get so excited about every shiny object that you see, at least every new shiny object that you see. Now, you can admire someone else's shiny object. If you see someone else pulls up in a really nice, fancy car, or somebody is take a picture with an exotic animal on their vacation, or someone is talking about how they achieved all this business and financial success in the last 30 days of their life, and you can see it and you can hear about it and read about it, pay attention to it and congratulate them on it, but it doesn't distract you from continuing to do your thing, whatever your thing happens to be. You don't need to go buy a car just because somebody else bought a car. You don't need to go horseback riding just because one of your friends posted on Instagram that they went horseback riding. You don't need to go get in a debate about politics on Facebook just because one of your friends is so hot and bothered about a debate about politics on Facebook. You can acknowledge that they're doing it. You can even get some entertainment from it, but you don't have to partake. All right, you can appreciate, but not participate. All right, I've talked about this several times here. And when your focus is strong enough, several times in different masterclasses on the show, that is, when your focus is strong enough, you will have that ability to appreciate, but not participate. And let me give you all something right here as a disclaimer. If your focus is not strong enough just yet, if you're not solid enough on your own plan just yet, if you haven't created enough success for yourself that you really trust yourself and your own plans so much just yet, here's what I offer to you. How about you not pay attention to what other people are doing for a sustained period of time? It doesn't have to be forever, maybe a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months, where you're only focused on your stuff until you create enough leverage and enough momentum with your own stuff that then you are able to take your eyes off of you, look at other people's stuff, acknowledge their presence, but at the same time not feel like you need to go do the exact same thing that they're doing. I talk to people all the time. There's a friend of mine that I talked to a few months ago, and she's a business owner. And she was telling me, I hadn't talked to her for maybe a couple of months, and she was asking me, Dre, what's up with you? What you got going on? I told her, and I asked her what she was doing, what she had going on, and she said, a friend of hers, a guy that I know, but he's not, I wouldn't really call him a friend, but she was mentioning somebody that she knows, he had just done XYZ thing, he had gotten XYZ result. And this was a big time result in her eyes, and I guess in his eyes as well. She's like, well, he just did this thing, he got this result, so you know what? I'm looking into doing something like that. And I don't know the entire background of what she was doing before that, or what if she had broke off what she was doing in order to get to that. But it sounded like she was having a little bit of this shiny object syndrome. So this person said, I did this and I got this result. Now you're looking at it like, oh, I want to go do that. I want to go get that result. And listen, people use this to sell all the time. I mean, how many of you have ever clicked on an advertisement because you saw that exact framework of a conversation? Somebody said, well, look, I just made $6,752 in the last 24 hours by using my new proven system. and you clicked on ad because you wanted to know the proven system. You want that $6,000 too. That is shiny object syndrome. It works. Okay, so this is why we got to talk about how to avoid shiny object syndrome, because shiny object syndrome works on the weaknesses of the human psyche. And the weakness of the human psyche is that we are easily distracted when we are not strongly enough focused on our own shit, that we are subconsciously looking for someone else to give us something to distract us. And every day we are becoming more and more susceptible to this because our devices are training us to do this. Our devices are training us to be distracted. They're training us to look for distractions, to find distractions, and allow those distractions to suck all of our time out of us. All right, this is why social media apps are worth what they're worth. All right, appreciate, but do not participate. This is how you stay away from shiny object syndrome. Let's recap today's class. The definition of this affliction, shiny object syndrome: the tendency for someone to chase something new, be it an idea, trend, or goal, rather than stay focused on what they are doing. This is similar to a child who is attracted to anything that is shiny and new. It's important because all of us get baited by shiny object syndrome every single day because of the devices that we have now. Is actually worse than it has ever been when it comes to shiny object syndrome. That's why I'm here to offer you this masterclass that is much needed in this moment. Point number one, have a plan and strategy for your own success. This is a plan that you trust and a plan that you can be committed to. A plan that fulfills you and doesn't have you looking around all the time at what everybody else is doing. When someone else's shit distracts you, that means you are not clear on your own path, i.e. you do not trust your path. Point number two, stay out of other people's business. Mind your damn business. This is a skill of focus and paying less attention to what other people are doing. Yes, you can learn from looking at other people, but think about how much you look at other people's stuff versus how much you learn from other people's stuff. And then the next question after that, if you feel like you learn a lot from all the stuff you look at, how much are you implementing the stuff that you're learning from other people? Because if you're looking at the right people and learning the right stuff, and then you start implementing it, before long, you should be creating your own success enough that you don't need to look at anybody else's. And eventually, you want to start having people look at your shit. And if that's not happening, maybe, just maybe, you're looking at the wrong people and or you're implementing the wrong stuff or the wrong way. Point number three, be secure enough in your own plan and your own success, so that when other people have stuff going on, you can appreciate it, but not participate in it. You can see that somebody bought a new car, doesn't mean you need to go out and buy a new car. When people ask me, how do you avoid distraction? I tell them there's no such thing as avoiding distraction. What you do is you find focus. When you're focused on your own stuff, you don't get excited about shiny new objects. You can admire them. Like again, you saw your friend went horseback riding, it looks fun. You see your friend got a new car, it looks nice. Doesn't mean you got to go do the exact same thing that they did, because you're so focused on your own plan that it does not distract you. If you're ready to lock into that kind of discipline and mental toughness to where you're not getting distracted by what other people have going on and you can really focus on your thing to create the outcomes you want, join me at Work On Your Game University by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com, and let's work directly on taking your game where it's supposed to be. Work on your game. Dre all day.